Hello and welcome. My name is Eric Osterling from Kings River Conservation District, and I'm the Contract Program Manager for the North Fork Kings Groundwater Sustainability Agency. Today, I'll be providing you with an overview of the approach to Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014 implementation in the Kings Groundwater Subbasin, and with an update on current and planned activities specific to the North Fork Kings GSA's participation in that effort. For additional background on the Act and related regulations that are behind this activity, please visit www.kingsgroundwater.info. As you may know, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, or SGMA, was designed to be implemented by local water and land use agencies. The North Fork Kings Groundwater Sustainability Agency was formed on January 1, 2017 in order to represent a portion of the Kings Subbasin in its implementation of the regulation. The new agency's first order of business is to develop a Groundwater Sustainability Plan, or GSP, and among other things, once completed, the GSP will describe thresholds for groundwater depletion and will list proposed conservation and water supply enhancement projects to be carried out during the implementation phase. Such strategies will be designed to achieve sustainability objectives within a 20-year timeframe. SGMA grants several new authorities to GSAs. Some of these include the development of a groundwater sustainability plan, administrative fees and assessments, enforcement actions, to adopt rules, regulations, and ordinances, to procure surface water for replenishment, regulate, limit, or suspend groundwater production, well registration, metering, reporting, and monitoring. The Kings Subbasin has been identified by the state as being a high-priority, critically overdrafted subbasin. This designation requires the entire Kings Subbasin to be covered by GSPs by January 2020 and to meet sustainability objectives by the year 2040. The North Fork Kings GSA is one of 7 GSAs in the Kings Groundwater Subbasin. Joining the North Fork Kings GSA in the Kings Subbasin, shown here in yellow, are James ID GSA, McMullen Area GSA, North Kings GSA, Central Kings GSA, Kings River East GSA, and South Kings GSA, also shown here in the detail window at the top right. All of these GSAs are working collectively to coordinate their efforts as required under SGMA in order to achieve sustainability for the region. Here we have a more detailed view of the North Fork Kings GSA. Roughly, the area is bound to the west by Westlands Water District, to the east and north by Consolidated Irrigation District and Raisin City Water District, and bound by the Kings River to the south. It includes Laguna Irrigation District, Riverdale Irrigation District, the communities of Layton, Riverdale, and Lanier, Liberty Water District, Stinson Water District, as well as undistricted areas represented by both the County of Fresno and several mutual water companies. Efforts to form the North Fork Kings GSA trace back to 2015, when water and land use agencies in the Kings River region began to engage in informal meetings to discuss the new state regulation and potential strategies for regional compliance. As GSA boundaries started to solidify, stakeholders in the North Fork sub-area decided to pursue California Special Act legislation to create a new agency to serve as the GSA. As a result, Senate Bill 564 was authored by Senator Anthony Cannella, and the bill was signed into law by Governor Brown on September 16, 2016. This new agency consists of 15 member entities. There are 7 divisions represented by a 7-member board of directors. For more information on the governance of the North Fork Kings, please visit our website at www.northforkkings.org. The next step in the process is to develop a groundwater sustainability plan. While the state's requirements for groundwater sustainability plan content are the same for all GSAs throughout the state, the North Fork Kings area's issues and solutions will be very specific to the unique challenges within the groundwater management area that it serves. North Fork Kings' GSP will include a physical description of the groundwater management area, including groundwater conditions, a water budget covering a 50-year planning horizon, groundwater management criteria, a monitoring program, and projects that will assure the region meets sustainability targets within 20 years. The plan will also define a series of measurable objectives and thresholds to be operated within in order to remain on course towards the sustainability goal. The regulation requires that each basin or subbasin submit an annual report, and every 5 years the state will evaluate a region's progress toward achieving sustainability and may intervene if significant inadequacies are identified. The Act outlines several critical parameters that must be considered and addressed in all GSPs. It defines sustainability as management and use that can be maintained during the planning and implementation horizon without causing undesirable results. Undesirable results follow a significant and unreasonable standard that is in part defined by the regulation and in part will be defined by local GSPs. Undesirable results in the North Fork Kings area may include chronic lowering of groundwater levels, reductions in groundwater storage, degraded water quality, land subsidence, groundwater pumping related surface water depletions that have adverse impacts on beneficial uses, including groundwater dependent ecosystems. At this time, the only undesirable result that we can be certain doesn't apply to the North Fork Kings area is seawater intrusion. This slide is a simple illustration of possible metrics for monitoring a number of sustainability indicators and demonstrates both a minimum threshold, the level at which significant and unreasonable harm is being done, and a measurable objective, the level at which a GSP attempts to achieve. A GSP must describe emergency actions to be taken if or when measurement of a specific metric nears or exceeds a minimum threshold. Here we've prepared an illustrative yet limited coverage look at groundwater level conditions within the Kings Subbasin. In the spring of 2015, groundwater wells were surveyed for static groundwater elevations throughout most of the Kings Subbasin. This map shows that water levels are generally shallower on the east side of the subbasin, areas shaded here in blue and green, and then increase in depth as you move west toward the western edge of the subbasin, areas here shaded in yellow, orange, red, and purple. For reference, the North Fork Kings area is delineated here in black. As you can see, groundwater levels throughout the northern part of the service area do vary significantly. A slightly different way to look at the contours is to highlight the gradient of groundwater flow. As surface water flows downhill, so too does groundwater. Within the Kings Subbasin, we have a large flow pattern which terminates in the Raisin City area near Helm, California, shown here where 4 orange arrows converge. We also have areas of gain, or groundwater coming in, and loss, groundwater going out, occurring between the Kings Subbasin and its neighboring subbasins. An example would be this area below the lone orange arrow in the center of the page, where groundwater is leaving the Kings Subbasin near Hanford, California. Surface subsidence is another sustainability indicator of groundwater pumping. This map was prepared by California Department of Water Resources and NASA using several highly sensitive radar-equipped satellites between October of 2015 and March 2016. Areas shaded in blue and purple indicate little or no subsidence, while yellow through red shaded areas indicate concerning and critical levels of surface subsidence. Within the North Fork Kings GSA, this map indicates that there has been a level of subsidence occurring in recent years that will need to be evaluated and addressed within the GSP. Under Sigma, state intervention may only occur if any one of the following happens. By July 1, 2017, all medium and high priority basins were required to be fully covered by a GSA or GSAs. This deadline has recently passed, with the Kings Subbasin having met this requirement. By February 1st of 2020, all critically overdrafted basins, which the Kings Subbasin qualifies as, must have developed and adopted a compliant GSP. The California Department of Water Resources performs the evaluation of completed plans and has the discretion to turn failing plans over to the State Water Resources Control Board for intervention. By February 1st of 2020, all non-critically overdrafted high and medium priority basins are required to have their plans completed and adopted. This milestone does not apply to the Kings Subbasin, which is why it's stricken here in this slide. And finally, if by February 1st of 2025 a plan is deemed to be failing in controlling significant groundwater pumping related surface water impacts. At that time, the State Board may intervene. If the State Board does intervene, both compliant and non-compliant areas of the particular basin or subbasin will be subject to enforcement action. In other words, the entire basin or subbasin will be classified as probationary and directly managed by the State Board, even if only a portion is out of compliance, i.e., a bad actor. In this situation, the Board would implement fees to recover costs. They would require direct reporting by groundwater pumpers, and they would develop an interim GSP to manage the basin, until which time local agencies are able to correct areas of noncompliance. Interim GSPs developed by the State Board would employ only a single strategy to meet sustainability objectives, and that would be to restrict groundwater pumping. Strategies such as groundwater recharge and procurement of additional surface water will not be options under the State Board management. This slide illustrates a fee schedule adopted by the State Board in May of 2017. As I mentioned earlier, at this time there is no immediate concern that state intervention will occur in the North Fort Kings area, since the initial milestone of agency formation and coverage of the subbasin has been met. However, if any other future milestone were not to be met, the following minimum costs can be expected. Each well owner must first pay a base filing fee of $300 for each well they own and operate. In addition to the base fee, the Board would impose a volumetric fee of $40 an acre-foot pumped plus $55 of an acre-foot more to cover the cost of an interim GSP development. You'll notice there are asterisks next to a couple of these numbers, and that's to indicate that if any special studies are deemed to be necessary to the development of an interim plan, those costs would be on top of rates identified here. Lastly, a late fee of 25% per month will be applied to any late payments received by the Board. So what does this look like applied to an agricultural groundwater pumper? In this example, a 50-acre farm is extracting 3.5 acre-feet per acre. In a probationary scenario, this 50-acre farm would be charged $146 for the 3.5 acre-feet per acre pumped, plus $199 per acre for the State Board to develop an interim GSP, coming to a grand total of just over $17,000 or $345 per acre per year. In order for the state to have the information necessary to assess fees that were outlined in the previous slide, groundwater pumpers in probationary basins will be required to report directly to the Board. Required data to be included in this reporting would include location and pumping capacity of the well or wells, extraction volumes by month and by well, and a description of the location of use and the purpose of the use of the water extracted. There is an exemption for de minimis users located in unmanaged areas. A de minimis user is defined by the Act as extractors who only use the water for domestic purposes and who use less than 2 acre-feet of water per year. If the State Board were to come in and develop an interim GSP, they would do so by preparing a list of corrective actions which would guide State Board interim management of the basin, as well as describe a roadmap for local agencies to get back into compliance, a schedule by which those corrective actions shall occur, a monitoring plan for evaluating the performance of planned actions, and California Environmental Quality Act analysis. The North Fork Kings GSA encourages the involvement of all beneficial users of groundwater within its surface area. We would like your help in spreading the word about what the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act is, efforts underway by the North Fork Kings GSA and surrounding agencies to comply, and that there are regular board meetings and other ways to participate. Some examples of required tasks that will need broad stakeholder input include 1. Defining sustainability for the region, 2. Defining significant and unreasonable results thresholds, and 3. Identification of projects and approval of funding through Proposition 218 or Prop 26 election in order to implement those projects. There are several web resources which you can go to for more information and to stay informed on upcoming activities. Both the Department of Water Resources and State Water Resources Control Board have Sigma landing pages which provide resources pertaining to their respective responsibilities for implementing the Act. www.northforkkings.org is the official North Fork Kings GSA website where you can obtain information specific to the agency and its service area. And kingsgroundwater.info is a portal resource offering aggregate background on all GSAs and GSPs located within the Kings River region. This is a screenshot of the homepage at northforkkings.org. You'll notice on the right there is an interested person sign-up form for anyone who is interested in subscribing to the agency's e-news to stay informed on recent actions and planned activities for the North Fork Kings GSA. On the left-hand side, you can use the main menu to learn more about the agency and view documents including notices, minutes, agenda, and eventually technical memos and reports. Thank you for your interest in the North Fork Kings GSA. Please be sure to subscribe to our e-news and check in at northforkkings.org regularly for upcoming meetings and events. We look forward to your participation.